By the end of this video, you might not want to move to Vancouver anymore. Today, we talk about the top 5 reasons why you might not want to move to Vancouver. You might have just got a new job offer, or you're thinking of a fresh start. You might have the opportunity to pick between a few cities, and Vancouver is one of them. If you're thinking of moving to the greater Vancouver area, this video is for you. After my top 5 reasons, I'll give you Canucks fans, or soon-to-be Canucks fans, reasons why you shouldn't move to Vancouver, or at least you might want to pick a different team. The first one on the list, high cost of living. A manager of mine once told me, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And that is quite true. This is a real estate related channel, but Vancouver just tends to be Canada's most expensive city when it comes to real estate. Whether you're renting or buying, you're going to be paying a pretty penny. Most municipalities in the greater Vancouver area are trying their best to tackle the housing crisis at this point, but you might be waiting a little bit until that actually happens, or until it's actually solved, if it ever does happen. If you're moving to the greater Vancouver area, I would say expect to put at least 30 to 50, depending on the type of living that you have, 30 or 50% of your income straight to housing. Whatever's left over, you could use it for other necessities, but that's how expensive it is. Average rent for a 1-bedroom condo in Vancouver is roughly $2,600. Now, if you compare it to the rest of Canada, it's quite a bit more expensive than the other major cities. When we look at Calgary sits at around $1,800 per month for a 1-bedroom condo. Toronto, $2,200 per month. Montreal at $17, and then you have Winnipeg if you want to move to Winnipeg. Most people just need to, or you got family there. But Winnipeg's at $1,400 per month. Definitely a lot more affordable than Vancouver. Now, if you need 2 bedrooms, you're looking at around $3,700 per month. It's quite a bit. Once again, compared to other cities in Canada, you're looking in Calgary, a 2-bedroom condo will be $2,200. Toronto, still cheaper than Vancouver at $3,000 per month. If you're going to Montreal, $2,400 per month, and Winnipeg's only $1,800 per month. Wow, Vancouver's twice as expensive as Winnipeg. There has been some relief on the rental end. Rents are down 7%. Right now it's November 2024, so last year things were actually a lot more pricier. So there you go, you're saving 7%. There's your Black Friday deal. With that being said, other necessities like daycare, transportation, food, they're roughly on par with the rest of Canada. It's just housing is the biggest issue here. Now with your average income, so your median income being $80,000 in the greater Vancouver area, you could be at times putting nearly 50% of your income just into housing alone. When you add up all your costs, at the end of the month, you're not left with very much. I guess you have a lot of nature and you could do a lot of free things here. And the city is known to be pretty boring, but it's still quite expensive. Now, when it comes to buying a home, it's almost out of reach for most people. The average home in Vancouver is $1.25 million. Now, that's just your average home. That takes into consideration 1-bedroom condos, studio condos. Yeah, so now when you think about buying your dream home, you might be waiting a long time. Most people end up working their way up over years, climbing the property ladder, starting with a 1-bedroom condo, and then maybe go to a bigger condo, maybe a townhouse. Then they sell the townhouse, take the equity from the townhouse, buy a single detached. And then one day they're in a dream home when they're 50, 60 years old. That's how things go. So even buying a home is even more expensive than just renting here. That's reason number 1, and it's a big reason. It could honestly be all 5 of why you shouldn't be, or why you might not want to move to Vancouver. The Big Apple, New York. The Windy City, Chicago. Vancouver, Raincouver. They call it beautiful British Columbia, and I promise you it is probably one of the most beautiful places in the world. But it also is one of the rainiest places in Canada to live. Here's the deal. If you don't like rain, Vancouver might not be the place. It's definitely not the place for you. From April to October, it's definitely the most beautiful place in the world. From October all the way to April, it's probably going to be one of the wettest places you've been. And when it rains a lot, all the time. The big problem I see with Vancouver is most of the things that you want to do here in Vancouver, they're outside. The beaches, the hikes, the mountains, they're outside. And when it's raining, you're kind of stuck watching the Vancouver Canucks lose. And when it rains a lot, I mean like a lot, to the tune of 1,500 millimeters a year. That's quite a bit. That's 57 inches of rain. That's 55 more inches than I have. Comparing that to other major cities in Canada, Toronto gets roughly half the rain at 800 millimeters, where Vancouver gets 1,500 millimeters a year. Calgary gets 1/3. It's one of the driest places in Canada. Calgary gets around 500 millimeters per year. If you compare it to something like Los Angeles, LA gets 1/10 of the rain that Vancouver gets per year. LA gets around 155 milliliters. So when I say it rains a lot, in Vancouver it rains 169 days out of the year. That's nearly half of the year. It's almost as much as London, England. London, England just rains a bit more. If you hate the rain, Vancouver is definitely not the place for you. You might want to move to a place like Calgary. Although it is a bit colder, it just gets a lot less rain than Vancouver does. And if you can fly across the world, move to Dubai. It's way less rain than Vancouver does. I think like 45 millimeters per year, where Vancouver gets 1,500. There you go. That's your second reason why you might not want to move to Vancouver. Reason number 3, traffic. Traffic is a way of life in the greater Vancouver area. Mass transit is majorly lacking in Vancouver. You're not like other cities like London or New York. You don't have major subways connecting the suburbs, connecting every single suburb to every other suburb to every other downtown to every other city core. So that's one of the biggest issues. I mean, one day it might get there, but right now it's slowly, and I mean very slowly, expanding. And because of the lack of mass transit, you might be commuting upwards of an hour and a half. That's on a good day. If you live in Chilliwack and you're working downtown Vancouver, you're going to be commuting an hour and a half. If there's traffic, you're cooked. You might be stuck in traffic for 2.5 hours. And it seems like there's construction all the time. It definitely is a new city, a new area. It's only about 150 years old. Might be younger than that. But because of that, there's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of work happening in the areas. So you're going to end up sitting in traffic. If you aren't working from home, you're going to find yourself stuck on Highway 1 in rush hour, or Highway 99, or Highway any of the other numbers. Talking about the city itself, if you're commuting from west or north Vancouver into downtown core, you'll be seeing the infamous Lionsgate Bridge, as picturesque as it may be, quite a bit, because you'll be sitting in traffic looking at it all the time. Rush hour on the Lionsgate Bridge is absolutely insane. So if you like bridges, which I've recently figured out a lot of people love bridges, then it's great. You'll love Vancouver. There's a lot of bridges crossing a lot of rivers and a lot of waterways, and you'll be spending quite a bit of time on them. Now, if you like cycling, you're golden. Vancouver's got 102 kilometers of bike lanes. It's quite a bit, but what that does is take up lanes and clog up traffic. Most likely on the way to work, you're going to be stuck behind someone who thinks they're on the Tour de France. That's not going to be a lot of fun. That's a big issue for Vancouver. We've touched on the weather, but we're back at it again, because apparently for some reason when the weather changes even just a little bit, when it goes from sunny to rain or rain to snow, because it does snow in Vancouver as well, not as much as other places in Canada, so that's a positive. But when the weather does change, people for some reason just forget how to drive. I don't know what it is, but for some reason they just decide, oh, it's raining today, I forgot to drive in rain. Causes accidents, and you're going to end up stuck in traffic, as per usual. What's new? Reason number 4 is something that I don't think a lot of people have talked about before. It's the nature peer pressure. If you're not paddleboarding, if you're not scaling a mountain by 5 a.m., people are going to be looking at you weird, like, you don't hike, bruh? The thing is, you're going to fall into the peer pressure like most people do. Unless you got an iron will, most likely you're going to end up falling to that peer pressure. You're going to buy a pair of skis and learn how to ski, maybe snowboard. With that comes a lot of risk. Skiing and snowboarding are super injury prone. Up to 600,000 people just in the USA alone get injured annually. I think the stat is 1 in every 300 days when you ski or snowboard, you end up getting injured. So essentially every year you're going to injure something just because of the peer pressure. Here's the thing, Vancouver is beautiful, especially in the summer. You're surrounded by lakes, a lot of rivers, beaches, mountains. So when the weather does turn good, everyone causes a traffic jam to head to one of these places. And if you are busy working, or if you have responsibilities that you got to take care of, you're going to end up getting hit with a big case of FOMO. Trust me, for someone who works on the weekends, especially in the summer, because the spring and summer are usually the busiest for us, it's tough. You feel the FOMO real hard. I mean, your friends will be out and about, be stuck busy doing something else. So if you do end up choosing Vancouver and you fall into the peer pressure of nature, just do your research before you go on some of these hikes. I learned the hard way. Hikes in Vancouver are very different from hikes in other places in the world. At the end of it, you get a very beautiful Instagram picture. Some of these hikes are 5, 6, 7 hours. Some of them are that long one way. Sometimes nature can be one of the reasons why you don't want to move here. Number 5, earthquake risk. Just because Vancouver's real estate market is rock solid doesn't mean the area that you're living on isn't shaky. You're quite literally living on a tectonic time bomb. People from Vancouver actually don't know this, but Vancouver sits on the Cascadia subduction zone. It's basically 2 massive tectonic plates that are playing tug of war with each other right underneath your feet. At any given moment, it could be a massive life-changing earthquake. More than just life-changing. It could change this whole area. Let's actually say that we're majorly overdue for a big one. That's not a movie title. That's a mega thrust earthquake that could change the face of Vancouver. Actually might not even exist anymore. The international buyer of mine who pointed to Mount Baker and said, hey, what are the chances of a volcano erupting? I told him it's nowhere near as a chance of you dying from an earthquake. So there's a volcano as well. The risk of living in such a beautiful place, such a tectonic risk of living in such a beautiful place, might not be worth it. This place might not be your cup of tea. From the traffic, to the high cost of living, from the rain, the earthquakes, to the peer pressure, might just not be worth it. Those are your 5 reasons of why Vancouver might not be the place that you want to move to. Now let's get on to the bonus one. This one's kind of fun. Vancouver's sports teams absolutely suck, but they don't suck as much as their sports fans do. Now, I am a die-hard Vancouver Canucks fan. Been so since the beginning of me. But the last 2 times that the Vancouver Canucks, who are Vancouver's professional hockey team, made it to the finals in 2011 and 1994, and they ended up losing because they haven't won in their 55 years, so they ended up losing. The city got burnt down. Cars were flipped, buildings were broken into, looted. Those are your Vancouver Canucks fans. Not your average Canucks fan. Most of them are great. Zach Hyman, but Vancouver sports suck. If you love sitting in traffic in the rain, driving back to your home that's costing you an arm and a leg, Vancouver might be the place for you. And if you want me to help you find a place to stash your Arc'teryx, give me a call. My name's TJ.